Ready for my favorite Kalos region Pokemon list? Oh wait, there's a Gen 3 remake! The list could change, so I better hold it off. But, thinking of changes, I'll make this list instead. In the Pokemon games, new changes come around every generation, even if we may have missed them because of how small they may have been. But I thought it might be fun to make a list for the changes I found a lot of favor in. There's not much these entries have in common, with the exception that they're still here in the current 6th gen, or have been made in X and Y. So while I was tempted to have the contest from Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, as well as the Pokemon World Tournament and Joint Avenue of Black and White 2, they didn't stay with the series. Alright, let's start it off! 10th place. Hey, remember the days in Gen 1 where we only had 5 stats? Yeah, me too, and I'm glad those days are over. Ever since Gen 2, oh look, I found my old games! Oh, the save batteries died. Along with everything I worked so hard for. Oh geez, I really need to work on that. Well, Gold and Silver split the special stat into Special Attack and Special Defense forever! So some Pokemon who benefited from having a high special with a move to increase it even higher, such as Slowbro or freaking Mewtwo, could no longer be the overwhelming powerhouses they were. A small but new level of depth had been introduced, and it made the stats look understandable. This is their special attack, and how powerful their special attacks will be, and this is their special defense that shows how much it can withstand those special attacks. Now, if they can finally show us the hidden stats of accuracy and evasion, we'll come full circle. Because I've tested to a near fact that my Tyranitar can't hit a frozen Snorlax with Stone Edge, while my Garchomp usually lands a Dragon Rush like it was Aerial Ace. Yeah, you wish you had my Garchomp, don't ya? 9th place. You, me, one-on-one battles, let's go! This was fine, but double battles, double the fun, double the strategies, and let you have one more Pokemon on standby. Double battles open the door for ways your Pokemon could work together and come up with an almost never-ending amount of combinations for dominations. Earthquake with Pokemon not affected by it, Water and Volt Absorb tactics, and other ways to irritate your opponents. Pokemon made for support play a bigger role here than ever before, and there's a great sense of satisfaction when it feels like your Pokemon are actually working together in perfect harmony with each other. So, you would think that triple battles made things even better, right? That's purely opinion, and mine is negative, so let's leave it at that. 8th place. Steel types, man. Whew. Those guys didn't have a lot of Pokemon that they were super effective against. But they made up for that by resisting nearly everything. Then Gen 6 said, hey, let's make them lose their resistance to Ghost and Dark type moves in exchange for being effective and resistant to Fairy types. So now Pokemon like my Espeon who can learn Shadow Ball actually have a good chance of standing up to Steel types. This leveled the playing field a little by allowing some Pokemon before who were hindered in some battles. For example, let's say my Jolteon goes up against a Magnezone or an Excadrill, could now use Shadow Ball dealing a decent amount of damage unless it had a really good hidden power instead of being completely defenseless. My only regret, and the reason why it isn't any higher, is because it also made my Metagross weak against both of those types instead of being able to stand up to them regardless of its 4 iron legs. Still a really good Pokemon though. 7th place. This may not be that big of a deal to most of you, but to me it made a huge impact in the way I raised my Pokemon for battle. Now the daycare has been around since Gen 1. Breeding was introduced in Gen 2, allowing you to get more Pokemon without having to catch them, with the potential of having moves they can never learn on their own. Some more stuff happens, but let's skip all the way to Gen 6. And learn that a little tweak has been made that can potentially make your Pokemon's offspring more powerful than legendaries. Without getting too technical with the whole EV-IV training thing, giving one of the parents in the daycare the item Destiny Knot allows you to transfer up to 5 IVs to the Pokemon trapped in the upcoming egg. And if you're patient enough, all 6 IVs. So for me, giving my Ditto that has outstanding potential with perfect IVs in every stat increases my chances of getting a new Pokemon that will be better than yours. Hey, don't be hating, I had to trade a Mew to get that Japanese Ditto. My precious, one of a kind, uncatchable Mew. Thanks again, Emerald Clone Glitch, I felt nothing! 6th place. You know why you couldn't transfer your Pokemon from Gen 2 to Gen 3? Because they changed how powerful your Pokemon could become. If I remember this correctly, you could train all of your Pokemon stats to their full potential in Generation 1 and 2. Generation 3 and onwards made it so only one stat can reach its full potential, and another stat can reach its, well, neutral highest points. Meaning that you have to think carefully about what stats you want to focus on for your Pokemon, because the last thing you want to do is focus on a speed stat for a Shuckle or defense for a Blissey. But just what did I mean by neutral highest points? Well, in Gen 3 they introduced this little feature called Natures. The Natures tell you which stat gets an increase by 1.5 times their regular level up, but also which stat will be decreased by times 0.5 points when leveling up. And ever since Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you can just barely tell which ones will get the increase with a stat that is colored red, and the one that will be hindered in blue. Sounds a bit backwards in color scheming to me, but whatever. If there is no color, then no stat gets a boost, while no other stat gets dragged behind like a Steelix holding an iron ball. So raising your Pokemon to their full potential is a little easier when you can tell which stat can reach its peak, while another stat is ultimately forgotten. And every other stat in between is just the middle, which is what I meant by neutral highest, as they won't be affected. Well, there's characteristics, but when your Pokemon's IVs are across the board, it seems a little pointless to bring that up. Oh yeah, this match is over. Sweet kiss that victory speech you had ready, goodbye! And then the Pokemon pulls out its item they were holding and completely flips the script. Once a Pokemon learned how to hold an item in Generation 2, another whole new level of strategy came into play. Thinking about what item you want to give to your Pokemon can make more of a difference sometimes than just what moves they know. Got a Pokemon with a double weakness? Focus Sash can prevent them from getting KO'd in one hit as long as their HP is full before taking the full impact of the attack. Pokemon suffering from a status effect like Confusion, Burn, or Sleep? A Berry will do the trick. Or maybe you just want a little extra firepower. A Life Orb will drain your Pokemon's HP by a little, but getting that trait in power can prevent more of your HP from getting demolished in the long run. It's the next best thing for not being able to learn a fifth move. Oh wait, no, that's the next entry I'm thinking of. Fourth place. Sometimes the Pokedex is just a bunch of rubbish and a pile of muck. Take a look at this. The rain clouds on Raiko's back let it fire thunderbolts at will. Yeah, except for when it runs out of power points. Lugia spends its time deep at the bottom of the sea because its powers are too strong. It's not even in the 100 most powerful attack or special attack rankings. There's a reason I usually don't pay attention to most of this, because for the most part it never plays into the actual battles and is usually meant to scare kids or create creepypasta. Cacturne's blood transformed into the same substance as sand? So every time it uses sand attack, it's basically bleeding on the opponent? I don't even want to know what it has to do to make a sandstorm. There are a few exceptions, such as Kyogre and Groudon, where it brings their abilities into place. Wow, that was long-winded, but yes! Abilities are so great they had to make it high up on my list. They play a part in both battles and their personality. But mainly the battles. Any trainer worthy of their first badge will tell you that if you don't have the right abilities for your Pokemon, you might as well call it quits. Now let's pretend some people don't know what abilities in Pokemon are. Actually, that's a reality, as some people today are still thinking that Splash should have been the worst ability on that list I made. So to make sure I don't confuse some of you, causing you to hurt yourself, let me make this clear. Abilities are not attacks and usually can't be used whenever you please. They have to be activated one way or another. They are special techniques that give your Pokemon a little extra something. More power in their attacks, damage the opponent on contact, let you make the first move if it follows the guidelines, change the weather, or completely screw around with the other trainer's mind. Most Pokemon have about 2 abilities, and many Pokemon have what's known as a hidden ability, which quite honestly can make it a one-sided match sometimes. Knowing your Pokemon and what it can do is always the first step to being a master. And then having the patience to get an outstanding perfect 6 IV hidden ability Pokemon level up to 100 as the rest of the training. Man, I really miss Joint Avenue and Black Tower right now. Generation 1 was... what's the phrase I'm looking for? Oh yeah, broken beyond belief. Hey, I had my fun when I had the games, but there was no question that Psychic types had no equals in that generation, along with no hindrances except against each other. Ghost and Bug type moves during that generation were pathetic, and most of the Pokemon who had them couldn't even last long enough to be used for most of the time. And then Gen 2 gave us 2 things to make Psychic types no longer the go-to types to rely on. Thank the Lord! Steel and Dark types came out of nowhere, almost literally nowhere, to make Fighting types useful and cripple Pokemon like Mewtwo. See what I mean? This was originally going to be number 1 because it felt like a change that wouldn't be duplicated again. Then we got Pixie Power to stop all dragons where they outrage, thus no longer making it feel one of a kind. Still, it doesn't change the impact that these types made, amid the biggest problem that plagued Red, Blue, Yellow, and then everyone who went up against an outraging Garchomp over Wi-Fi, who then usually outraged themselves because of the cheap overpower tactic. Still love you, Garchomp, you magnificent over-destructive powerhouse, you! One big reason why I could never pick a favorite generation or Pokemon game is because I look at all of them and love what each one of them has done. Sometimes it might just be one adjustment that can make me respect that generation greatly. Gen 4 is a good example of this for me. When I think of Generation 4, I think of really derpy Pokemon, updates of older Pokemon that were more exciting than most of the new ones, and Wi-Fi. That's dead now, and honestly I forget why online isn't even on the list. However, it did 2 things that I will always respect these games for. 1. Make more powerful attacks for types that lack strong and accurate moves like Iron Head, Energy Ball, X-Scissor, Dark Pulse, Dragon Pulse, and Bug Buzz, just to name a few. And then there was the big one, the Special Physical Attack Split. Before Diamond and Pearl, attacks were either powered by attack or special attack based on the type alone. For example, every Dragon attack was a special attack, and every Ghost move was based on the Pokemon's attack power. But Gen 4 said, you know what, that doesn't really make any sense, so let's make it based on the attack itself. So now Pokemon like Blaziken and Swampert, who were a mix of attack and special attacks because of their types, could now have moves that were powered by their stronger stat, making it so that no matter what the type is now, there is something for both sides. The only reason this isn't any higher, and I must ask you again to remember that this is my personal list and that this is a very personal reason that kept it from first place, was that it did kind of ruin my Sceptile's move pool. Leaf Blade, Thunder Punch, Crunch, and Dragon Claw were all at one point special attacks, and special attack is naturally higher than its regular attack. Now the special move pool is so shallow you can see Magikarp splashing about. You needed a move tutor in Gen 5 to teach it Dragon Pulse, while its physical attack move pool is so deep, Lugia is hiding down there. They should have a Mega Sceptile in the Ruby Sapphire remakes that has an ability to raise its attack power to make up for this. Meh, close enough. Generation 5 didn't seem like it made that many big changes when compared to the previous installments, not counting triple or rotation battles because I hardly ever use those. Sure, a lot of new things were added, and the game overall was starting to feel more streamlined. HMs were really used, nurses and doctors were in caves to restore your Pokemon instead of using an escape rope for the 4th time in the same place. The Pokemon Center merged with the marts to save you a trip. Yeah, the gameplay felt more convenient when you were just playing through the game. And then I heard that TMs never run out now. Wait, could you say that again? Technical machines are now unlimited. I want to do the Goron dance, but I've overplayed that joke. Oh, just a quick one. Okay, that's good enough. No longer was I restricted to teaching a one-of-a-kind good TM to just one Pokemon. Now I can use it whenever I please. When I look at this, I don't see a downside at all. When taking your Pokemon around the Univore or Kalos region, you don't have to worry about holding on to that one move you don't want to use just yet because there was only one of it, and you wanted to hold on to it in case you found a stronger Pokemon later on. You see, with this change, I could try out new moves on Pokemon whenever I wanted. If one wasn't working out that great, I'd use another. I found no problems with this change at all, and only great things to come from it. Before this, I would buy the second version of the game just so I could keep getting TMs. And legendary Pokemon and Master Balls, but mostly TMs. Earthquake can now be in all of my team's movesets. Maybe. Or I could teach Shadow or Dragon Claw without hesitation. For someone who trains multiple Pokemon over and over, it feels so relieving to no longer have to worry about this burden anymore. And it can save me money in the long run, which is always wonderful. And we've reached the end of this list. Furthermore, if you have a difference of opinion, I would love to hear the changes in Pokemon you thought were the best. Convenience, an unlimited resource, a time saver, and options galore? Yeah, this was a no-brainer after new types was lowered. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end, so as a reward, here's some video suggestions for you. There's the extension list for 10 more favorite Easter eggs in video games, my review for Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, the quick 5 I made for my favorite space level themes in video games over there on Push Start's channel, and today's video plug is another Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze review by the Cartoon Gamer 8000. For your first review, you made a top-notch job with great editing and solid narration. Yeah, it wasn't his first video, but it was his first review and it was handled very well, so there's the plug. On the topic of video plugs, I've been getting a lot of requests from others to check out their reviews or other videos and give some advice, so don't be surprised if you start to see those come up here. Now that I've said that, I get the horrible feeling that I'm going to be getting more requests than I can handle. Please go easy on me here, guys. There's no way I could possibly handle over 46,000 different videos to be looked over. But if you're confident enough, and by that I mean you have put in the proper time to script and edit your video, then I'll have a look-see, and if I think it's good, it might be plugged. But I won't tell you if it will be or not. I'd rather leave that as a surprise. And with all that said, I will see you guys later.